Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
At Lawrenceburg Federal Bank, we're proud to be locally owned and operated because we're not just a bank, we're family. When you call, you'll be greeted by a friendly representative who's ready to discuss your banking needs, as well as offer our competitive rates on CDs and money market accounts. Our loan decisions are made in-house and never sold to a secondary market because our commitment is simple. You matter to us. At Lawrenceburg Federal, we offer all the conveniences of larger banks with a personal touch. Join us at Lawrenceburg Federal Bank, where community, trust, and service come together.
LUS is committed to our customers, from providing and maintaining energy-efficient utility services to friendly, helpful customer service. LUS is there. At LUS, we're always challenging everything we know, every day. We strive to improve efficiency and reliability while focusing on our responsibility to our customers and the community. It's our promise to provide dependable service to our customers every time. Because we don't just work in Lawrence County, we live here too.
Make your lawn a legacy. At Legacy Lawn and Landscapes, we put more than 16 years of experience into your goals. We won't meet your expectations, we'll exceed them. We offer consultation, installation, maintenance, hardscapes, construction, and land clearing services. Owner John and Jamie Brewer with their team are dedicated to providing the highest quality landscape services to commercial and residential clients in Middle Tennessee. Service, teamwork, results. That's how you leave a legacy.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. It's Monday, so we got to recap. But real quick, first quick announcement. We are now moving all of our shows audio-wise over to a podcast platform. So it won't be live, but you'll be able to pretty much listen to them within a couple hours of it going up. We have them up on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. We'll have more of an update on that on Wednesday. We'll jump right into it on kind of a discussion we were having on Thursday about the whole Mack Rhoades situation, the athletic director at Baylor. So there were some new allegations brought forward last Monday that have seemed to have an impact on this. It was a decision that the university made for Rhoades. It wasn't his call necessarily to step down from his position as the AD and as the as the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee. They have named a new one. I believe Friday afternoon or Friday evening, Arkansas's athletic director Hunter Yurachek has been named the new chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, replacing Mack Rhoades. And Utah athletic director Mark Harlan has also been appointed to fill a role that was opened up back in October of former Arizona State offensive lineman Randall McDaniel, who also, again left back in October, similar to Rhoades for a personal reason. McDaniel is expected back for the 2026 season, so hopefully everything's okay with him. Back to Rhodes. A statement from Baylor says that this leave is not a result of a Title IX violation, a student-athlete welfare, anything related to that, NCAA rules, or anything to do with the football program. There was the moment on the sidelines earlier in the season back in September where you saw Rhodes in a confrontation with Baylor tight end Michael Trigg over an undershirt is the best way I could understand it. So there was definitely a bit of a microscope on the guy, so to speak, after that. And, well, obviously you're at Baylor. Baylor has a troubled history of controversial things going on in their athletic department. And then you have a guy showing some less than great tendencies in public view on television, things like that. And then this man, as the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, is seen on TV every Tuesday night explaining the committee's reasons for their rankings, this, that, and the other. And so it's definitely not a great look for the university, especially with how their football season has gone. Not great right now. Baylor. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but this Saturday did not go any better for the Bears, and it's not been a good season. They're now 5-5, so still have a bowl game on. As a possibility with last games at at Arizona and Houston. They could maybe get there. I would say as of now, I feel better about both Arizona and Houston than I do Baylor. But it's really disappointing. This team started 4. They're 2-2. Had that tough loss to Arizona State. If you don't give up that last second drive, let them go down the field and kick that field goal, maybe you win that game, and you're 5-1 going into that TCU game back in October. And maybe you win that game. It was a 6-point difference back then. TCU has not gotten any better. Really the only games that they have lost this year are Auburn, Cincinnati, and Utah. Baylor had some potential, and with Dave Aranda as their head coach, you would expect a good defense, but in their games this season have given up. And I'm not going to name their FCS. I'm not going to put up their FCS opponent because I don't think that one it should count in this. But 38 to Auburn, 45, 27, 27, 34. 42, 41, 3. Good job holding UCF, but that's not saying too much. And then Saturday, 55. So the Bears could be entering a coaching search, and right now with an AD on leave, it's probably going to make that search. It could delay that. Maybe Aranda stays for another year and they wait for things to get figured out. But definitely a bit of a messy situation going on over at Baylor. We will jump right into the recap from the games this weekend. We will start on Friday in the ACC, where Clemson, they're 500 now. It feels crazy to say that, but Louisville had the thing they did to Miami happen to them on Friday night. Big win for Clemson. That program has gone through a lot this year and it's not off the field issues. It's on the field issues with this team, and they've struggled. You have that loss to Clemson, or that loss to LSU. You lose the game to Georgia Tech. You lose to Syracuse. You're 1-3, and your only win is Troy. Then you get back on track. You get North Carolina, Boston College, cool. And then you let SMU by. You let Duke by. Now you really got to lock in because you have 3 wins, and you can't afford to lose more than one more game this season. They handle Florida State. They get by at Louisville, and now will probably end up being bowl eligible with their game against Furman on Saturday. But man, just a really impressive win by the Tigers. It wasn't pretty, 20-19. Cade Klubnik wasn't excellent. But thank you, Clemson, for finally realizing you have a really, really, really good running back if you just give him the ball. Adam Randall, 15 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's awesome. That's incredible. Adam Randall has been a guy that I knew was incredibly talented heading into the season, and I knew if they could get him the ball and actually run the ball and give him some touches, that he could be that next Travis Etienne or Ellington, guys like that spent some time with Clemson, and not just another forgotten running back. TJ Moore, Antonio Williams had nice days. Nothing crazy, but you look at what happened in this one. It's crazy looking at it. Each team had a turnover. Louisville had a bit more of a penalty problem. Neither team was good on third down. Neither team was good on fourth down. Only 3 combined third down conversions between the two teams. 1 for Clemson, 2 for Louisville. There's not much that separates the two teams, and that's why it was a 1-point game. It was one of those where it kind of came down to. It did kind of come down to the end. Obviously Louisville had the missed field goal. You can't have that with a minute and a half left in the game. You can't. And obviously, Clemson gives them the ball right back, goes essentially 3 and out. Because of the unsportsmanlike conduct. And then Louisville turns it over on downs. And Clemson gets it back for 1 play, kneels it out, heads to the house, and gets to enjoy a college football Saturday. Now with a win, they're 500 overall. They're 500 in conference play. And the big thing for them, that was a win on the road against a team that still had somewhat playoff hopes. I would have to say that those are dashed for the Cardinals. At this point, Notre Dame and Pitt were playing. I'm not sure if anybody told Pitt that yet, but Notre Dame's done what they have done to everybody all year except their first 2 games. They just went out and dominated a team they were better than. 37-15 the final score there. You look, this wasn't even Notre Dame at their best. CJ Carr was subpar in this game, and it was probably his worst performance of the year. 2 interceptions. One, you could say his fault, one not his fault maybe. 2 passing touchdowns, but the story of this game, Jeremiah Love had that 56-yard rushing touchdown to get things started. That's the dirtiest spin move that we've seen since Braxton Miller against Virginia Tech. Man. What a win for Notre Dame, because there were a lot of talk. This is Notre Dame's last chance to get a good win, and then they destroy Pitt, and then maybe Pitt wasn't that good. I'm not a big fan of those narratives. I think that's dumb. Your narrative going into the game, barring some injuries, which there weren't in this game, it should have an impact on. Should not have the game should not have an impact on what you think of afterwards necessarily, unless there was an injury. There wasn't a big injury in this one, at least to a degree that would change this game. Malachi Fields finally had his first great game with the Irish this year, and has really come on as of late. 7 catches, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eli Raridan had a nice game. But the story of this one, Jeremiah Love, going 147 yards and a touchdown. Jadarian Price had a nice day, 8 carries, 21 yards. Props to Notre Dame. Didn't let Desmond Reed get going. He's been very dangerous on the outside. We've seen him kind of play all over the place. He's has rushing yards, has a lot of receiving yards. Don't really know what position you want to consider him as. But you see a trend in games where he doesn't do very well, which it's happened twice this year, and it happened against West Virginia and against Notre Dame. They lost those games. In games where he does well, has a touchdown, has 200 yards of offense, something like that, they've won. Notre Dame's defense did not let him get going. Just an all-around great game, and 4 sacks. They made Mason Heinschel's afternoon awful. It was Eli Holstein comes in at the end, just an all-around dominant win for Notre Dame, and I anticipate we'll see them take a jump in the playoff polls come tomorrow night. We will stick in the ACC. NC State, Miami. This is one we previewed. Game kind of sucked. Gonna keep it honest. It was not a very good football game. I thought that maybe NC State would be able to give Miami some fits, and NC State can do that to teams because they like to score, and they like to score a lot. Well, only problem is they scored a touchdown in this game with 2 minutes and 18 seconds to go. That was their first score. So obviously you can tell from that game didn't go well. Miami 41, NC State 7. CJ Bailey just over 50% completion percentage, 120 yards and 2 interceptions. I think the most surprising thing was the lack of the run game. Miami dominated that one up front. Jaden Scott has been a great running back all year, getting about 6 yards a carry. The freshman is 78 touches, about 460 yards, 7 carries, 14 yards. C.J. Bailey, the quarterback, but has 148 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, 6 carries for 11 and a touchdown. Hollywood Smothers, who I get the sophomore's been dealing with an injury, but this is a guy that's got over 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, and it's getting about 6.5 yards a carry. He goes 7 carries for -2, and his longest run was 10 yards. 4 yards. You take that away, he had 6 carries for -6 yards. He was averaging going backwards. While I am a huge proponent of Miami should not be in the playoff, that's how a playoff team plays up front on defense, because their defense was just absolutely overwhelming. Now, Scott did have 40 yards on a couple catches, but this one was just dominated by Miami. Beck goes 21 of 27, 291, 3 touchdowns. This is what Miami Carson Beck should look like. We've seen him look like this a couple of games this year, and when they do, Miami looks like one of the best teams in the country. This was another weekend of that. New running back, Gerard Pringle, had about 230 yards on the season, does the freshman have. Got 116 of them on Saturday. 17 carries, 116 yards. Charmar Brown had the touchdown on the... but it was just an all-around dominating game. Malachi Toney, 5 catches, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. Completed a 44-yard pass to Josiah Trader. So that was, kind of fun when you run a couple of trick plays in there. But just a great game for the Hurricanes. And maybe they're getting hot at the right time, especially with 2 road games remaining. That was their last home game. And now I'm not going to say Virginia Tech's going to give them some trouble, but Pitt could. We will stay in the ACC. 2 more games. Another one that I thought would be a little bit better than we actually got. Virginia 34, Duke 17. The hope of an 8-4 Duke team making the playoff is completely gone. See, I think that would have been cool, because at that point the ACC doesn't get a team in, and you're looking at 2 Group of 5 champions, because it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions. I mean, with the way a couple of teams were talking about down a little further down, look, we are going to have a new team as that new number 12, pretty much that Group of 5 champion. We could have had 2, but again, Virginia handles business and takes care of Duke 34-17 on the road. If you would have told me that Virginia was going to go on the road and Chandler Morris was going to throw 2 interceptions, and I would not have picked a 34-17 win. But other than those interceptions, he was really good. 23 of 35, 316, 2 touchdowns. Jamari Taylor has been awesome this season. I'll tell you, this kid has really impressed me. He's getting close to that 1,000-yard mark. We'll probably get there next week, or in their next game, which is not until 2 weeks. They got a bye week. I would love a bye week 2 weeks before the season ended. 18 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Harrison Whaley, 16 carries for 62 yards. I mean, over 40 rushes for over 200 yards is impressive. So just a great game on the ground for Virginia. Oh, and they threw for 300 yards. So, Trell Harris, 8 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Duke wasn't terrible. They just couldn't get anything going. 18 of 35, 213, and a touchdown for Mensah. This Virginia defense has actually really impressed me this year. They had some shaky moments, but have really pulled through as of late. Nate Shepard, nothing. Anderson Castle, nothing. Darian Mensah was getting sacked a lot, so that didn't help the rushing yards. But Virginia outrushed Duke by almost 180 yards. Oh, and they also had 103 more passing yards. That really has an impact. Duke was terrible on third downs, 4 of 15. Virginia was awesome, 12 of 19. Virginia had a little more penalties, had a little more turnovers, but in a game you dominate, I mean, you take out those turnovers and limit the penalties. 14 of Duke's points came in the fourth quarter. They dominated this one. One that I did not think I would be talking about one bit, I'm pretty sure I even joked about it being a crappy game. Boston College Georgia Tech 36, Boston College 34. 23-yard field goal under 10 seconds by Georgia Tech's kicker Burr. Aiden Burr, it was 3 of 4 on the day. 3 extra points was a huge impact on this one. This felt like a weird game, though, just overall. Georgia Tech had some turnover problems, and their defense, man. I did not think a Brent Key-led defense would be this bad, but they're not good. They gave up 537 yards of offense. There was almost 1,200 yards of offense total in this game between the two teams. Georgia Tech over 620 yards. We'll go look at the box score because that looks awesome if you love offense. Haynes King, 26 of 34, 371 yards, and a touchdown. Only 53 yards on the ground. Gave Malachi Hosley a bulk of the carries. But I'll tell you, Haynes King numbers are getting up there in a good way. 2,200 passing yards, 800 on the ground, has 24 total touchdowns. He's getting there. I think it's the lack of passing touchdowns that's hurt him. Malik Rutherford had a huge game. Eric Rivers had a huge game. But I'll tell you, there's some kids on this Boston College team that looked really good as well. Dylan Longerin, he had a good game, 362 passing yards, no interceptions. Turbo Richard, the running back for Boston College. Great name, sophomore out of Charlotte. 11 carries, 141 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then you go to the receiving end. You got a sophomore out of Utah, Reed Harris. 5 catches, $142, and a touchdown. Lewis Bond, 8 catches, 106 yards, no touchdowns. But, man, just great offense all around. The teams combined for 2 sacks and 5 tackles for loss. So there was not a lot of negative plays in this one. Concerning, though, for the Yellow Jackets, if they want to be that last team, if they want to be that ACC representative. We will now jump on over to the Big 12, where we had a somewhat interesting day. I mean, the good teams looked good, the bad teams looked bad. What can you say? It's the Big 12. Arizona, though, had the upset of the day in the conference, so to speak, getting a win at Cincinnati 30-24. This was the, I believe, the early game on FS1, so not a lot of eyes on it. And, man, Cincinnati, without Evan Pryor, has struggled mightily. I believe he was their leading rusher when he went down, but there was 3 guys that were all kind of in there together, and losing one of them was going to hurt. But, man, Noah Fafita has put together quietly a really, really good season. 294 yards and a touchdown. Kendrick Rossano, the running back for Arizona, had 94 yards and a touchdown. Chris Hudson, 123 receiving yards. No turnovers, at least in the fumble category for either team. But Brendan Sorsby went back to his old self and did not have a great game. 15 of 28, 154 yards and a touchdown, 2 interceptions to go along with it. 30 rushing yards and a touchdown. So, had 2 touchdowns. Tui Walker, 12 carries, 119 yards. Zion Johnson, 7 carries, 42 yards. Just an all-around, it was just a bad end for Cincinnati. They got up early. Interception on the first play of the game for Indiana, or for Cincinnati. But look, Arizona scores off of that. Then you score, punt. Then you score, missed field goal. You have a big opportunity there to end the first quarter. You punt. Then they miss another field goal. You have another opportunity. They punt. Then they punt it back to you. Then you throw a pick. Then their offense gets going. Field goal and a half. Field goal, punt, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, downs, end of game. Arizona had the ball 5 times in the second half. They scored 4 times. They ended the game the 5th time. You can't teach that. I mean, that's just incredible by this team. And those turnovers, when they happened, were not great. One to open the game that gave a short field to Arizona for a touchdown. The next one happened in the second quarter, led to a field goal. You take those 2 turnovers away, you take those 10 points away, it's a Cincinnati Bearcat win. But a really impressive win for Arizona. West Virginia and Arizona State. Earlier in the season, probably would not have guessed I've been talking about this one. It was 1 quarter from Arizona State that won them this game. 3-0 West Virginia after one. And again, there was no Sam Levitt again. He's been dealing with a bunch of injuries this season that have really, really held him down. So it was Jeff Sims again. And if I would have been 100% aware of that Thursday, probably would have picked West Virginia. Scotty Fox Jr. was awesome through the air, 19 of 31, 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really exposed that Arizona State secondary. Problem is, couldn't get anything going on the ground. A total of 39 carries for 68 yards, and there wasn't somebody that had a bunch of negatives because of sacks. Now, don't want to say there weren't any sacks because Arizona State did sack Fox 3 times, but that wasn't anything that was going to make a big difference. It was the second quarter. That was what did it for Arizona State because it was punt and punt. They get it in the second quarter, touchdown, take the lead. Touchdown again, extend the lead, and they went for 2 on that one. Then you keep going down, punt, touchdown again. So now it's 22-10, and that was really all they needed. Obviously, you had the late field goal that really sealed it, and then obviously the interception by by Fox with a minute and a half left on fourth down ends the game. Would have been a remarkable win for West Virginia to go out to Tempe and get that win, but Arizona State stays alive, and I mean they're 7-3 still. I feel like we've kind of disregarded them, so to speak, following that Houston upset. They're still a good team. Utah and Baylor. Obviously, we were talking about the Bears. If you heard the last number I said for how many points their defense had given up this season, Utah 55, Baylor 28. You go look at the quarterbacks, and you're like, man, how was this even a game? Devin Dampier, 6 of 13, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Sawyer Robertson, 29 of 58, 430 yards, and 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's because Utah runs the football incredibly well. 43 carries. This is an absurd number. 43 carries, 380 yards on the ground. I mean, that's enough to make a military academy cry. I mean, there's nothing you could say about that. That's just that impressive. I mean, that's almost 10 yards a carry. It's 9.1 yards a carry. I mean, that should be all I have to say, because there were only 8 completions in this game for Utah. Bryson Washington was all right on the ground for Baylor. Obviously Josh Cameron, big game. Ashton Hawkins, big game. Ended up getting ejected. Was a fight with him and I think Eli Davis for Utah. Both of them were ejected for fighting. I don't remember if that was in the first or second half, but those guys could be missing some time down the stretch. And for Utah, I don't know if you want to do that, especially with you got both of the Kansas teams left. Baylor got a bit of a tougher stretch, like I said. But man, it's the turnovers that are hurting Baylor. And you have one in the first half when it was a 14-0 game. Now, getting the ball back, but then again, you have another one late in the game when it's 42-20, when you're trying to come back, and then Utah scores again. Just a dominating game all the way around. Baylor actually had the yardage advantage because they threw for 330 more yards than Utah did. But Utah got 9 yards of carry on the ground and ran for 380 yards. No turnovers. That's a good recipe for winning football. And it's crazy that this team doesn't have to throw the ball to be great. They'll probably need to if they want to make the playoff. Their chances are getting pretty slim. But they could get some help in front of them and potentially make it in. Another absolute blowout, TCU and BYU. They finished the night on ESPN, that late game, and it was all Cougars. 44-13, in fact, and just, again, dominating. Bear Bachmeier had another great game. 23 of 33, 296, a touchdown. Also added in 59 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So about 350 yards of offense. Actually, a little over 355 yards of offense and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good for a freshman that wasn't supposed to see the field this year. LJ Martin, over 4 yards a carry and a touchdown. Big game for Parker Kingston. Chase Roberts had a decent game. But, the hay was made in this one on the defensive end. 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, pick 6 for Tanner Wall. You got Tiger Bachmeyer on kick returns. Man, what a family. Bear and Tiger. Love it. Will Farron does a great job kicking, hits a 52-yarder, 3 field goals, 5 extra points. Not much more you can ask for that. It was just not a good game for TCU. Josh Hoover had 183 passing yards. This is a guy that... Let me do a quick check real quick, because he was like... Him and Sawyer Robertson were 1 and 2 in the country in passing yards, and I would assume that's probably... Yeah, he's fallen outside the top 8 now. He's at number 9, behind guys like Joey Aguilar, Drew Mestamaker, Joey Fagnano, Walker Eggett, the quarterback from San Jose State. Nick Minichucci, the quarterback for Delaware, has had an incredible season. This is Delaware's first year in FBS from FCS, and he has over 3,000 yards. At a 62% clip, which is higher than anybody but Drew Mestamaker, who's got 3,000 yards on 70% completion percentage. Robertson's still number 1 because he still throws for over 300 yards a game, but Hoover's really fallen off, and the 10 interceptions don't help him. Because when you get to the double digits part, it's starting to be a little bit more of your fault than maybe your receiver's fault. We'll jump on over to the Big Ten. They had a game on Friday night. Not much worth watching. Oregon absolutely destroyed Minnesota. I think his Oregon team's got it. I was a little cautious after that Indiana loss, that Oregon or the Penn State win, the win against Wisconsin, but it was a little shaky. And then you looked a little shaky against Iowa. Left no doubt. I mean, you beat a team by 29 points at home on a Friday night after you had to travel to the... that game was at Iowa. So you had to travel from Oregon to Iowa, back to Oregon, and then be ready to play a game on 6 days. You could not tell that. This was probably the best game of Dante Moore's career at quarterback so far. 27 of 30 for 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think Oregon wants that Friday night playoff game. And if it's against Notre Dame like it was predicted last week, they might get it. Noah Whittington, 72 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Davison had 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenyon Sadiq, 96 yards and a touchdown. And there was nothing going for the Golden Gophers. Darius Taylor, 10 carries, 57 yards. Minnesota just had no way of getting the ground game going. Boy, I'm going to guess that's how you say his name, that their backup running back, who was their second leading rusher on the year, had 3 carries for 9 yards. That's problems. And, not many big plays in the pass game. He had a 26-yard completion, but this one was over before it started. It was 28-6 at halftime. Minnesota scored a touchdown in the third to try to make it look a little better, but there's not much making that look better. But hey, I mean, your kicker hit 2 field goals, and Oregon didn't have to try one because they kept getting in the end zone. Great win for the Ducks. They got College Game Day next week. I can't wait to talk about that one. We'll talk about that one on Friday. Michigan at Northwestern. This game was played at Wrigley Field. It was really cool watching the game because you'd sit there and be locked in on a football game, and then they'd show like the wide shot or an outside shot of the stadium, and you remember that you're in the friendly confines. What a game. Did not expect this one to be very good. I thought that Michigan would handle it on the ground, and that would be all you need. They did handle it on the ground, but they needed a little more. Bryce Underwood was not great today, or on Saturday. 21 of 32, 280 yards. You're like, okay. I mean, looking at his season, let me go to his game log. That's the most he's passed for in a game this year. 2 interceptions. Can't do that, especially when you play as the pace that Michigan plays. Because Michigan, I mean, just overall, they have 5 turnovers. They wanted to lose this game. Not only do they have the 2 picks, they had 3 fumbles. Samaj Morgan, Andrew Marsh, Brian Kudzall. Those are those are your receivers fumbling the ball. Andrew Marsh, despite the fumble, had a really great game. 189 receiving yards on 12 catches. Jordan Marshall continues to just absolutely impress. The kid's going to go over 1,000 yards and isn't going to be the primary running back for. He's only going to have been the primary running back for half the season. 19 carries, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And look, Northwestern did not do anything impressive. Preston Stone, 13 of 27 for 184 yards. Cam Komalafe, 12 carries, 31 yards, got in the end zone. He had some big plays. He had the 36-yard catch. You had the 32-yard play. Those kind of set you up. But look, I mean, Michigan started off on a wrong foot. They had a 5-minute drive that ended in a missed field goal. It was windy in Chicago. Shocker. Northwestern punt, Michigan touchdown, Northwestern punt, Michigan punt, field goal, fumble, field goal, missed field goal going into half. It's 7-6 at halftime. And I thought, oh, maybe just a slow game. Then Michigan gets up 21-9. Touchdown. Interception for Michigan. Touchdown. Interception. If Northwestern doesn't go 3 and out right there, they win this game. Because Michigan fumbled on the next drive. And then Northwestern proceeded to go 3 and out again. And they went backwards, -3 yards on that drive. Just not good. Not good. Obviously, Michigan gets the ball, drives down the field, gets in field goal range with that beautiful 21-yard pass to Andrew Marsh that really got him in range. And then you ran the ball, got it real nice and close for your kicker. He knocked it in. And the Wolverines somehow continue to win, and they're still in the playoff hunt. Next week probably won't be a big factor with them with Maryland. But I am getting increasingly intrigued in this Ohio State-Michigan game. I really, really am. Iowa-USC, the only ranked-on-ranked matchup going on in the Big Ten on Saturday. And most people probably didn't know where they could watch it because it was on the Big Ten Network, of all places. I don't get how you throw 2 ranked teams, especially with the pedigree that Iowa and USC have in football. I mean, those are football schools. Iowa drops their second straight game to a ranked opponent on the road. USC 26-21. Jaden Maava had an all right game. King Miller did a bulk of the carries. Brian Jackson got him in the end zone. Mekhi Lemon, 153 yards and a touchdown. My favorite stat of the day. So Mark Gronowski, the quarterback for Iowa, had a passing touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown, and he had a receiving touchdown. That's the second time that's happened to USC this year. They have allowed 2 quarterbacks to have a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown in the same game. Mark Gronowski and Luke Altmaier. Gronowski, obviously, the Iowa quarterback. Altmaier at Illinois. So USC 1-1 in those games, but a really impressive comeback. Iowa was up 21 to 10 at halftime, and if I'm correct, I think it was 21-7. USC got a field goal right before half, and they had it controlled. And then the second half started. Michigan goes down, gets a field goal, or USC goes down and gets a field goal. Iowa punt, USC touchdown. Iowa interception, USC touchdown. And then the teams trade punts till the end of the game. Iowa had a chance, you could say. They had the ball at the 29, a 4th and 6th. They needed a touchdown and completion. Again, they had a chance. Just you can't go out and score nothing in the second half and expect to win a game. And that's not the only time I'm going to say this today, because we have another interesting one in the SEC. We'll get to that one in a second. But man, just all around impressive by USC to make that second half comeback and just look good. Iowa, costly turnover when you couldn't afford to have one. And it made an impact on that final score. Hawkeyes fall to 6-4 just mere weeks after we thought that maybe they could sneak in. Looking around we'll stick in the Big Ten. We got one more to look at. UCLA, Ohio State. Previewed this one, and I said it would probably be a butt whooping. No Nico for UCLA. I'm not sure how much that helps or hurts them. 48-10. And all 10 of those were in the second half. Luke Duncan got the start at quarterback, 16-23, 154 yards. And again, they just don't have their running back situation figured out. You have 7 guys carry the football in this game, and not one of them was your quarterback. And you got 25 carries for 68 yards. Now, I get Ohio State has the best run defense, not the best, but maybe one of the best run defenses in the country. And then Bo Jackson finally had a great game on the ground. Julian Sayin didn't do as much through the air, 23 of 31, 184 yards. Bo Jackson, though, 15 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Isaiah West had 8 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown, and James Peoples punched it in twice off 6 carries. Jeremiah Smith only had 40 yards in this one, and there was no Carnell Tate. Ohio State just wanted to get out of that one healthy and get them on down the line now at 10-0. Last 2 games at Rutgers and home versus Michigan, or I believe that was home versus Rutgers and at Michigan. Yes, home versus Rutgers and at Michigan. Sorry, read the scoreboard wrong. Now on over to the SEC, where we had a great day of football. Some conferences had some weak spots. The SEC had some as well, and this game was close, but it wasn't good. Arkansas falls to LSU 23-22 after I was very confident in the Razorbacks. Well, the problem with the Razorbacks, and if you remember me saying it, Taylen Green has a bit of a turnover problem. Just a bit. And listen, it's okay. Some guys just like to throw the ball to the other team. It happens. But when you have 10 interceptions and you also have a fumble problem, the game logs aren't going to tell me if where he fumbled. So I'll go back and probably have that ready for the next show. He's really fallen off. It's gone under 200 yards now over the last 2 weeks. Hasn't thrown for 300 yards since week 4 against Memphis. He's got some touchdowns, but you look at a couple of these games that they should have won. Probably should have won to Ole Miss. Listen, you didn't turn the ball over in that game. You did everything you could. Should not have lost to Memphis. That's 10 interceptions, and I believe you had a fumble. Notre Dame destroyed you. You had, I believe, 2 fumbles against Tennessee. A&M, you played almost perfect, and you almost got the win. Arkansas, you have 3 interceptions and a fumble. Mississippi State, you're close. I think you had a fumble late in that one. Let me check real quick, because I'm pretty sure he had a fumble late in that one. He fumbled but got it back. So, yeah, Mississippi State was just a nice win by them. And LSU, I thought you had built some momentum up in some of these past couple of games where you were close. Just did not happen. It's been sacked 24 times this year. It's hard for them to get the offense going. And you see a play that, one of those passes that got picked off yesterday, and Omega Blake just didn't even finish his route. Just let Mansour Delane just come in there and take it away from you. And listen, LSU's defense is awesome. 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. Their offense looked a lot better. Michael Van Buren getting the first start. No Garrett Nussmeier. I think Van Buren might retain the job for the remainder of the season. 21 of 31, 221 yards. Added 30 more on the ground. Caden Durham had 65 yards and a touchdown. Harlem Berry had 50 yards. Listen, that's the best LSU's looked on the ground all year. Almost 5 yards a carry. Mike Washington, Taylen Green had 150 yards combined and 2 touchdowns, but didn't let anyone else really do anything to them. No one really excelled through the air. Xavion Thomas led all receivers with 80 yards. Mike Washington had the fumble. Again, it was a big first quarter from Arkansas, big second quarter from LSU. Score in the third quarter from Arkansas, score in the fourth quarter from LSU. And they just needed to be 1 point better, and they were. Gutsy win for LSU. They won a game at Death Valley at home in the day. They don't do that a lot. Or, LSU fans will just tell you they only play at night. Alabama, Oklahoma. I think I said on one of our shows, it wasn't this, I don't think it was this show specifically, another export show, where I said that if this was a lower scoring game, and I mean sub 50 points total, that I think it favored Oklahoma. And that's exactly what happened. Oklahoma 23, Alabama 21, the final score. Kalen DeBoer finally lost in the black hoodie. 16-1 now. So I prayers to all the people that just bought their dad, all the Alabama fans that just bought their dad that hoodie. Hopefully, he might not want to wear it anymore. I will say Todd Simpson had a pretty good game, 28 of 42, 326, a touchdown and a pick. Because we was really spreading the ball around. There was nobody that was over the top great as a receiver. I mean, your tight end had led all receivers with 6 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. Jeremy Bernard, 7 catches for 71 yards. Isaiah Horton had that 26-yard, that long grab. Ryan Williams had a 38-yard grab. Alabama dominated this one in every facet except the one that mattered, turnovers. Alabama had 3 turnovers in this game. It was not good. You can't lose the turnover battle to Oklahoma. Because Alabama, overall, on the season, has been one of the better turnover teams in the country. I don't know exactly how many they have, but they force a ton. They do force a ton. Let me actually check out their turnover differential on the season, because I'm pretty sure it was a sizable number. It was in the 5, 6, 7s, 8s, somewhere around there. So let's see if we can find that number real quick. Looking for Alabama. There we go. Got a tough one next week against Eastern Illinois. It does not say. Let me see if I can pull it up right here. I think that, and great. Now that I'm wanting to look something up wasn't a stat that I had already, my iPad's gonna want to be slow now. Love that. Oh, thank you, ESPN, for just completely crashing. Love that. Anyway, it was a bad turnover day for Alabama, and that was going to cause problems. Listen, they controlled the time of possession. They controlled the game. Just all the way around. They even ran the ball better, which I was actually really impressed with, because you remember 2 weeks ago, Oklahoma's defense completely stifled out Tennessee's run game. And Tennessee is one of those teams that built their foundation off the run. Alabama, a bit of that as well this season. I'm not going to say they build their basis off the run, because they haven't been the best running team in the country. Obviously they know they have a great quarterback, but it's Alabama. They're still going to run the football. Just didn't go their way this time. And you look, third downs, Alabama was better. Penalties, Alabama was cleaner, had way more first down. It was the turnovers, because Oklahoma capitalized off those turnovers. You go look at the drive sheet. Anytime Alabama made a mistake, Oklahoma typically made up for it. They forced that fumble. Then they score a touchdown. They were up 17-7 pretty early in this one. Alabama comes back and scores, misses a field goal going into half. Oklahoma gets a field goal. Alabama scores a touchdown. Punt, then the fumble. Oklahoma takes the field goal. Alabama punt. Oklahoma punt. Then Alabama turned it over on downs, and that was the end of the game. It was a great game. It was a defensive battle. It was hard-nosed. And, John Mateer made plays. He didn't look good. 138 yards through the air, 23 on the ground. That's 161 yards of offense and 1 touchdown. Didn't look great, but it was enough. It was enough to get it done. Obviously, Bowen with the pick 6. That kind of changed things. But, man, what an incredible win for Oklahoma, because now I mean, what do we think of the Sooners? Because they just went on the road and beat Alabama at Alabama, giving them their first conference loss of the year. Now, Alabama's still ahead of them in the SEC rankings, but I think overall they're probably going to be lower. But good win. Good win for Oklahoma. We will stick in the ACC, or in the SEC, with Florida and Ole Miss. Ole Miss gets the win 34-24. That one was a lot closer for a lot longer than I think anybody would have anticipated. Ole Miss getting their first ever, I believe that was their, or I don't know if it was their first ever sellout, but it was they set a record crowd. Wanting Lane Kiffin to stay and not go join the Gators. Obviously, you're going to hear rumors about that until it either does or does not happen. But the Rebels, we'll talk about what happened on the field, not off the field. Had some shaky moments. They were losing 24-20 at halftime. Florida had a huge second quarter and then didn't score again. Florida in the second half, they got a lot of quit in them. They like to lay down and just give up. Lagway looked a lot better. 218 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Chambliss looked good, had 300 yards through the air, but the highlight of this one was Kawan Lacey. 31 carries for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 31 of their 48 carries, 224 of their 237 yards, and 3 touchdowns. All 3 touchdowns on the ground. Had their longest run play. He was awesome. And he was the difference in this one. And that should make anybody playing Florida down the stretch, so Tennessee and Florida State, really happy, because those two teams like to run the ball. And Ole Miss just ran the ball down their throats at somewhere 5.5, 6 yards a clip. And Florida's offense, man, they're just missing so many pieces. They're just throwing guys out there and trying to make it stick. Obviously didn't work, but I don't think they're in as bad a spot as anybody thinks they are overall, because they haven't lost any recruits, or maybe just one recruit. If not, I don't think they've lost any. Ole Miss, though, gets a bye week before the Egg Bowl. Let's see what else happened in the SEC on Saturday. I'll talk about Texas, Georgia for a little bit, just because it was the night game on ABC. But it kind of sucked. That game was not very fun. Unless you were a Georgia fan, then you enjoyed it. But I think they slotted the games backwards. I feel like if you put the night games in the morning and the morning games at night, it would have fit better. I feel like we just had a much better morning slate than we did in the afternoon. But I don't think there were a whole lot of realistic people that thought Texas would win this game. Because, look, this is the same Texas team that looked terrible at Ohio State, that looked terrible at Florida, that looked terrible at Kentucky, didn't look great at Mississippi State, and got a big win at home over Vanderbilt. So did you think it was magically going to change when they go on the road this time? Because on the road this year, Texas has scored 7, 21, 16, 45, and that went over Mississippi State, but that's Mississippi State's defense. Anybody can score 45 on that, and 10. They have no offense on the road. That's not going to say their defense played great, because they didn't. Gunnar Stockton threw for 4 touchdowns. Georgia didn't run the ball as much as they typically do, but again, when you're slinging around the yard as well as 24 of 29. That is really close to like 24 out of 30, which would have been 80%. That's insane, because he was over 80%. And you take away that interception, and he's even better. Arch, 27 of 43, 251, a touchdown, a pick. If you take out his sack yardage, about 40 yards on the ground for Texas, it's not good. You had some big plays like the Emmett Mosley 40-yard catch, but other than that, man, there was nothing going for Texas. They did get that touchdown in the third quarter, but again, it was they had a really, really short field and benefited from that. So Texas is done. Oklahoma's still alive. The SEC could have gotten really interesting if Texas won that game, but I think overall we're probably better off where we are, because I think this Oklahoma team is actually pretty good, and they have a really good resume now. Mississippi State and Missouri. I thought this would be a pretty good fight. I thought, hey, Missouri missing their quarterback, then maybe that would make this a little even. And Missouri said, here, Ahmad Hardy, run the ball 25 times for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's one of the most absurd stat lines I have ever seen. That's what you put up against an FCS team, not an SEC team at on your home field. Yeah, season's probably over for Mississippi State. This is their chance to get that 6th win, because I don't think they'll get it next in 2 weeks against Ole Miss. Now, they do have a bye week going into it as well, so I like that the SEC's done that. Is when you have a big game coming up, typically a rivalry, they'll give both teams the week off leading up to the game. Like, I remember Georgia and Alabama were both off the week before that game. So, having two teams get 2 weeks to prepare for each other for a big rivalry game, especially when it's, if Ole Miss loses, they might be out of the playoff. And then you got Mississippi State. If they win, they're going to a bowl game. So, a lot on the line in that one. Just dominating performance by Missouri. Not really much other to talk about other than Hardy. We'll take a quick look at one game that I didn't preview because I didn't think it would be good. Texas A&M 31, South Carolina 30. Wow. I've never seen two teams look so vastly different in two halves in my life. In the first half, Marcel Reed had 2 interceptions, probably could have had 5 or 6. I mean, he was just throwing it to South Carolina. Lenore Sellers was able to hit a couple big pass plays. Nick Harbor, Vendravius Jacobs, those guys. And then they went to the half up 30-3 off that field goal that, they probably could have scored. I mean, you're at the 7-yard line before you have that 10-yard penalty. So, you think, you go up 34-3 at halftime, you feel even better, and you blow the biggest lead in the SEC in 21 years. I mean, this second half drive chart for A&M, touchdown, 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 fumble, end of game. And the first touchdown was a short field, 35 yards, but then that was a 70-yard drive, an 80-yard drive, and a 98-yard drive that combined took a grand total of about, 8 minutes? And South Carolina couldn't help themselves but going run, pass, and then punt. Just an absolutely coaching malpractice by South Carolina in the second half. You needed one scoring drive. It could have been a freaking safety. Because, that 98-yard drive, you had them on the 2-yard line. 1 yard line, whatever. 1.5 yard line. You get a safety there, game's over. It's tied at that point. It was 30-20, so you get that. It's 32-24. You get the ball back. Sure, Texas A&M could go down and score and get the 2-point conversion and tie it up, but at least at that point you're going to overtime and you have a chance. You let them score. They take the lead. They give you the ball back, with that fumble. And just watching that last drive for South Carolina was painful. It wasn't like I wanted them to win or anything, but you got that big pass on 4th and 6th. And then 9-yard pass, get you a first down or whatever it was. Sack. Yes, you had the 9-yard pass, brings up 2nd and 1. Sacked, 3rd and 12. Sacked, 4th and 16. 7-yard run, out of bounds. Haven't been fired yet, but I would go ahead and tell Shane Beamer to pack the bags and head to Blacksburg, because he had the preseason number 13 team in the country and one of the hottest commodities, 2 of the hottest commodities on offense in the SEC, and Nick Harbor and Lenore Sellers, and they're 3-7. And Sellers on the year has 1,700 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Has not looked good. Is 68th in the country in QBR. And Nick Harbor, 24 catches, 505 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You tell me you can only get that dude the ball 24 times? There was a weird moment in that game where a Texas A&M, I think it was a Texas State Trooper or something like that, shoulder checked Nick Harbor after that 80-yard touchdown. That was a little weird. I mean, there's not much more of a story there other than that was really strange. we'll talk about some of the Group of 5 hopefuls. The number one ranked team in the Group of 5 heading in this week was South Florida. They were on the road at Navy. And, well, South Florida will not be in the rankings tonight. 41-38, big win for the midshipmen. This was at the Navy home stadium in Annapolis, and you go up there in November. You know, I don't know exactly what the weather was, but it feels like it's always cold and snowy up there when they play at home. The team needs something other than Byron Brown. That is this team's problem, because he goes out and puts up 327 yards and 2 touchdowns and an interception through the air. And then on the ground, 17 carries, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's, 463 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns? And he gets no help. Now, do I think they should probably run the ball a little more with maybe Davenport or Isaac? Yeah, I think they should. And especially when Navy runs the ball as well as they did. Blake Horvath, 8 of 15, 147 yards and a touchdown. 21 carries, 60 yards. I get he's been a little banged up. Braxton Woodson comes in, 103 yards and 2 touchdowns off 9 carries. 12 carries, 126 yards and a touchdown for their fullback, Alex Texa. I believe that's how you say that. But I think the coolest stat of this game is Navy had a guy, Eli Heidenreich, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a senior, go for 5 catches and 146 yards. All right, Heidenreich. We're number 22. I mean, that's the most Navy thing ever. Awesome. But then I look at it, I'm like, okay, he does have 750 receiving yards on the season, so maybe give him respect, because this Navy team actually does throw it a good bit. Horvath, 1,300 passing yards. Woodson, their other guy, 110 passing yards. So they throw it around a little bit. And they force some turnovers. And, you know, it was a one-drive difference, and that interception was the difference. Both teams were really good on third down. Both teams got a bunch of first downs, had a ton of yards of offense. Obviously, USF's was more through the air. Navy's was more on the ground. Neither team had a ton of penalties. And it's just one of those where, yeah, it sucks, but you know that's how it goes. Looking at Navy though, they look really good. Obviously, and the way they bounced back from a 39-point loss to Notre Dame. I mean, they lost 2 games in a row. They were, I believe, 7-0. Yes, 7-0, lost 2 in a row, got back in the win column. They got Memphis and Army left over. Maybe they could sneak into the playoff, but right now I'm a heavy proponent of North Texas, who I believe is now 2nd in the conference. I think it's going to come down to them and Tulane for who has that last, who will play in the conference championship, because that the AAC conference championship is going to be awesome. We'll stay in the American with the team I'm talking about, with North Texas, and the Mean Green look awesome. Their offense is humming, obviously, but they're doing it in interesting ways. So they had a game against Navy 2 weeks ago, and their running back, Caleb Hawkins, goes for 197 yards and 4 touchdowns. Okay, Methmaker's a passer, though. If you look, the Friday before that, they played a game, and he threw for 608 yards. And they play UAB. And Caleb Hawkins, 27 carries, 189 yards, and 5 touchdowns. This dude has scored 9 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. And if he had that stat line for any other team in the country, because right now, 150 carries, 930 yards, 16 touchdowns. That's 6 yards a carry. I mean, that's insane. As a freshman, Caleb Hawkins and Drew Mestemaker, the 2 of the most yardage guys in the country at their respective positions, freshmen. and dude, they're so young on the outside. Wyatt Young, sophomore. Cameron Dorner is a senior. Miles Coleman, sophomore. I mean, this is a young team. They're all coming back, unless they transfer when Eric Morris takes a new job. Man, wherever Eric Morris goes, you could be getting a seriously good team. Unless he stays in North Texas and just builds an absolute unit in the American. North Texas has got a game at Rice and home versus Temple to end the season. At 11-1, they got to be in. I'm sorry. If they win their conference, obviously. Boise State, San Diego State. We'll keep a look on the Mountain West, as they could potentially have that highest ranked team remaining, and that being, funny enough, San Diego State, who I just love the story of their head coach, Sean Lewis. You know, is 39 years old. Was the offensive coordinator for Colorado in 2023. Colorado in 2023's offense, they put up a good bit of points. Now, they weren't a good team. I know everybody remembers that, you know, they won their first 2 games and then went 2-10 or whatever it was. Went 4-8. But I mean, 45, 36, 43, 6. That was against Oregon. 41, 24 or 27, pardon. And then you went on the big losing streak, but you still scored 43, 16, 19, 31, 14, 17. Offense wasn't the problem, because your team got better the next year, but was your offense that much better? So, they fired Sean Lewis. They promoted Kyle Shurmur, or Pat Shurmur, Kyle Shurmur's father, actually. Sean Lewis goes and takes over San Diego State, and they're now 8-2 with 2 regular season games remaining. And, man, their defense is awesome. That's the coolest thing about this, is how awesome their defense is, because they are not allowing a lot of points. We'll go over how much points they've given up in their games. 0, 36 in a loss to Washington State. 0, 3, 24, 10, 0, 7, 38, and 7. Now that 38 and 36 are their 2 losses. In those games, they scored a combined 19 points, 13 and 6. So, that game with Hawaii was just bad all around. But, I mean, even Hawaii is a really exciting team. They're, 7-3. We're 7-3 at the time of that. They're now, okay, so they had a bye week, so they're still 7-3. They play UNLV on Friday. Another team that could be possibly fighting for that last spot. Who knows? The last team is slowly becoming one of my favorite teams. JMU, James Madison, the Dukes, had a game at home or versus App State, and you're like, ooh, that could be a scary one. And then you look at the end of the third quarter, and it's 37-0, James Madison. They're awesome. Alonzo Barnett, 303 yards, an interception, but was 22 of 25, or 22 of 35. Joby Mallory, 8 carries, 103 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's awesome. Wayne Knight, 16 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Matthew Saluka, 4 rushes, 70 yards, and a touchdown. He is a quarterback, and if you remember, Saluka, he was actually is actually a really interesting piece, because he was the guy at UNLV last year that after, I don't remember if it was their 3rd or 4th game, left because they didn't pay him. Hit the portal, is at JMU, and spending his senior year on the bench kind of stinks in that sense, but man, JMU 9-1, offense is humming, defense looks good. I guess you could say they're a defensive team, but I mean, they're just all around good. 58-10. I mean, just looking at some of their wins: 45-10, 31-13, 35-10, 63-27 over an Old Dominion team that was still fighting for a playoff spot at that time. 52-20, takes down Marshall in their anniversary of the plane crash that they had never lost in before, and then goes and beats JMU by almost 50. Yeah, because they scored 3 more touchdowns in that 4th quarter. Man, just a dominating performance by the Dukes. Real quick, we'll go look at some of the college basketball from over the weekend. We'll just fan over these really, really quick. Don't want to spend too much time on them. Let me pull up college basketball. We'll go back to Thursday, where we had a couple of games in the top 25. Number 2 Purdue at number 8 Alabama. Purdue gets the win 87-80. First game of the year for Trey Kaufman-Renn, and they needed it. Well, I don't want to say they needed it, because they got the win, but their offense looks so much better with him out there. 19 of 15 for him. Oscar Clough able to bring down 11 boards, but Braden Smith was the story of this one. 29 points, 7 boards, 4 assists. Looked really, really good in his time. Alabama didn't really have a big game from anybody. Aiden Holloway, was a lot of those mid tens like Aiden Sherrill, Taylor Bowen, and LeBaron Philon, 11, 13, and 12. They combined for 36 points. You're going to need a little bit more from those guys, especially if Philon's going to have 4 or 5 turnovers. Also, on Thursday, WVU gets a big win over Pitt in the basketball backyard brawl, 71-49. And man, I'll tell you, the offenses this year have been insane. Kansas State gets the win over Cal, 99-96. We'll go to Friday, Georgia 3-0, now 4-0, getting the 92-87 win over their rivals, Georgia Tech. I think we have a new worst team in the SEC, and they go by the name of the Texas A&M Aggies. They lost to UCF 86-74. UCF, I don't think is going to be very good this year, and if they're dominating at Texas A&M like that, it could be a long day, or a long season for Texas A&M. Now, given they are kind of in the middle of some, I don't want to say in the middle of it, but they're in a transition stage because they go get Bucky McMillan, and because he was the guy at Samford that had done such a good job with them, getting them to the tournaments and stuff, and it just hasn't worked so far. This is his first time venturing in his playing or coaching career outside of the state of Alabama. Was the high school coach at Mountain Brook High School from 2008 to 2020. Gets the bump up to Samford, and then now venturing out to Texas A&M. And listen, this is a guy that had an 82% win percentage in high school. He's a good coach. They'll get it figured out, but it's going to take some time. Number 6, Michigan, again, just barely scraping by an unranked team, TCU. Michigan 3-0, but 2 really scary wins. This one 67-63. Got to work on some things. Arizona is probably one of the more surprising teams this season about how good they are. Barring all they lost last year, Tommy Lloyd, early coach of the year favorite. They get a 69-65 win over number 15 UCLA. Number 19 Gonzaga takes down Arizona State 77-65. Xavier falls to Iowa 81-62. Tell you, Ben McCollum is really killing it at Iowa. And now, what's the reason for that? Is it his coaching? Is it Bennett Sturts? Honestly, I don't know. They've only played 3 games. Their offense has looked really good in most of them. But you look at their team overall, I mean, Sturts is averaging 21 points and 5 assists, 3 steals. I mean, he's been awesome. Not as huge of a rebound guy, but he's their guard. He's 6'4". Let him do the guard stuff, not the I get some teams like their guards to rebound, but others not as huge of a fan. On to Saturday, not as many big games. Georgetown gets the win over Clemson. They advance to 4-0. They're 79-74. Huge game in that one from Arizona transfer KJ Lewis. I believe he had 32 in that one. Let me verify that real quick. Believe that is right, though. And listen, if you can get a guy that can go do that, 26 points for KJ Lewis. Still really impressive. Because he got 5 steals with it as well. 16 points for Malik Mack. Really good game for Georgetown. Really good win for Georgetown. Maybe they got things figured out. Maybe Georgetown could get back to the dance, because it was really good when the John Thompsons were coaching, and it's hasn't been good since then. The Patrick Ewing experiment kind of set them back probably 5 or 6 years. We had a top 10 matchup, BYU-UConn. It was a great game. UConn gets the win 86-84. We'll take a little dive into this one because this was one of the better games on Saturday, and it was a basketball game. That's how you know it's doing good. If a basketball game can compete with football games, because this one was on Fox in between the afternoon and the late game. It was in Boston. AJ Debnza is I think he's from Boston. Yeah, Brockton, Massachusetts. So right outside of Boston. He goes for 25, 2 for 3 on threes, 25.6 boards. Can't complain. He showed out of the Garden. He's showing he's ready to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. Hey, maybe the Celtics try to draft him if he did that good. Richie Saunders didn't shoot great, 0 for 7 from 3. That hurts them. Robert Wright did all right, but 6 turnovers and only 4 assists. It got them playing ways that they hadn't been playing. And the 3 big guys for UConn, Caravan, Terrace Reed, and Silas Demery, all had 21 points. Demery had 7 assists and 1 turnover. That's awesome. And then Jaden Ross gives you 10 off the bench. BYU's going to need some help from outside guys because if Saunders or Wright is having a bad day, they're going to need more than just Debanza if they want to win. I get the Big 12's not crazy, but they're going to have to work for it. Or the Big 12. It's not crazy great, but they're going to need more than just him if they want to win those games. And I'll tell you, these games that have been going on in Sioux Falls have had crazy scores in them as well. Oklahoma and Nebraska played there Saturday night. It was a 105-99 win for the Cornhuskers. And, we had a Mississippi State, Iowa State game in there earlier this season that had, I don't know exactly what the points were in that one, but those are 2 defensive teams, and they scored a ton of points. Must just be really easy to shoot in there. Nigel Pack, 27 points. Xavier Brown goes for 20. Che Davis, 17. Not much help off the bench. And then you got Price Sanford and Rink Mast go for 28 and 26. And then Jamarcus Lawrence and Burke for Nebraska each go for, they combine for 30. If you can get 84 points out of, you can even go, they got 92 points out of their starters. And on the other hand, Oklahoma only got 77. That's the difference right there. Your starters, they got to be able to score. And if not, you got to have some big hitters off the bench. But a great win for Nebraska. Cornhuskers, now 4-0. And Oklahoma may be on the struggle bus. They're 2-2 now. Sunday, we had 3 games. Ohio State scooted by Notre Dame 64-63. Florida dominated Miami 82-68. We'll look at that one real quick. I didn't get to watch that when I was on the road last night. If we can get it to load, there we go. Florida. There are the Gators. I gotta find the basketball. Oop. Gotta love the ESPN app just crashing on me every 5 minutes. Okay, Florida. This one was at the Geico Jacksonville Hoop. This was the Geico Jacksonville Hoop Showdown, so it wasn't a home game per se for anyone. This is at Veterans Memorial Arena down there in Jacksonville. Malik Reneau, 22 points, 11 boards for Miami, leading the way. True Washington with 14. Trey Donaldson, the Michigan transfer, with 13 points, 6 assists. Alex Condon, though, rebounding, playing good, 19 points, 10 boards. That's what he should do. Thomas Houck, 17 points, had a great game. Ruben Chinulu was 16 and 10. I'll tell you, the guards for Florida were not allowed to get going in this game. Boogie Flan, 31 minutes, 8 points, 2 of 10 shooting. Xavier Lee, 27 minutes, 5 points, 1 of 6 shooting. Not great. Now, they were lucky that they had another guard off the bench, Klavzar, who was able to give you 15 points and be an actual scoring guard. But a really good win. Really good win for the Gators as they are bouncing back from that opening loss. And the big one from yesterday, a great game, one that could have said had some controversy in it. I don't know, it just depends on how you view members of the athletic department yelling at officials like dads at a high school game. But Houston gets a 73-72 win over Auburn. This one was at Legacy Arena in Birmingham. And man, what a game. It was 73-72. Houston had a 4-point lead at half. Auburn cut it down in the second half a little bit. It was just a great game. It's hard to just try to convince yourself that this wasn't a good game. Houston was pretty much favored the entire game. The only time they weren't, according to the ESPN win predictor, there was a moment where Auburn had a 54% chance of winning after Houston took a timeout with 23 seconds to go. But Houston out-rebounded them. and they shot better. That's how you win games. I'll tell you though, Auburn playing the number one team in the country this close, and one of your guys that I think should be one of your better scorers, Elijah Freeman, and he only goes for 7 points on 3 of 8 shooting. I think you're in good shape. Keyshawn Hall looked awesome. Keyshawn Murphy's first game back looked a little slow. Kevin Overton looked good. Todd Pettiford's getting better. Needs some help off the bench. Only 10 bench points in this game. Now only 5 for Houston, but Auburn, if you're going to play a guy, some guys 10 minutes off the bench, you'd like them to get some scores, or at least do what they're supposed to do out there, not turning the ball over twice as Philip Jovich did. We will take a quick look now at the AP Top 25 for college football. Let me pull that up real quick. I forgot to go over that before we hopped into college basketball. AP poll. Let's see if we can pull that up right quick. Man, why is the AP being so hard to find? Is this an updated one? Yes. Okie dokie. New rankings. Oh, no, that is not new rankings at all. I don't think. No, these are right. Okay. Jumping in at 25, we have Houston. Tulane making the jump in at 24. Missouri back in at 23. North Texas back in at 22. So we have 4 new ranked teams. JMU up from 24 to 21. Tennessee up 1 spot to 20. Virginia up 1 spot to 19. Michigan State at 18. Texas falls 7 spots to 17. USC, man, that is... Well, that's not the college football playoff rankings. If Texas is ranked between USC and Michigan, then maybe Michigan isn't going to make the playoff. USC up 1 spot to 16. Georgia Tech surprisingly went down 1 spot to 15. Miami jumped up 2 spots to 14. Utah up 2 spots to 13. Vandy up a spot to 12. BYU up to 11. Bama down from 4 to 10. Notre Dame stayed at 9. Oklahoma from 11 to 8. Texas Tech and Oregon each tied at 6. Both moving. Oregon up 1 spot. Texas Tech up 2 spots. Ole Miss from 7 to 5. Georgia up from 5 to 4. A&M stayed at 3. Indiana stayed at 2. And Ohio State stayed at 1. 57 first place votes for the Buckeyes, 8 for the Hoosiers, and 1 for the Aggies. I'm surprised somebody gave them a vote like that after Saturday. We will now jump over to the men's basketball top 25. If we can get the AP website to pull up this time, because it didn't want to the last time. There we go. That is the Week 3 men's college basketball top 25 poll. NC State in at number 25. Creighton dropped out. Kansas up 1 spot to 24. Glad to see Will Wade's team in North Carolina State starting to get some respect. Wisconsin up to 23. Auburn stayed at 22 following that loss to Houston on Sunday. I think that's fair. Arkansas stayed where they were. Tennessee stayed where they were at 21 and 20. Following their good weeks. UCLA down 4 spots following their loss to Arizona. North Carolina, Michigan, and Iowa State stayed at their spots, 18, 17, 16. You're not going to see a lot of change early in the season. Texas Tech took a loss earlier in the week to Illinois. They fell 4 spots to number 15. St. John's falls a spot to number 14. Texas Tech at 15. St. John's at 14. Gonzaga up 6 spots to number 13 following a good win over Arizona State and the demolishing of Creighton. Sometimes I'm forgetting which games were on the weekend and which were during the week. Kentucky also had that early week loss to Louisville. Bounced back with a good win over Eastern Illinois. They fell 3 spots. Bama, following that loss to Purdue, only fell 3 spots to number 11. Florida stayed at 10. BYU falls from 7 to 9. Illinois up from 14 to 8. Got that big win over Texas Tech. Nice win over Colgate. The Illini could be legit this year. Michigan down a spot. Thank you. I mean, that's not the fifth or sixth best team in the country. Louisville up 6 spots to number 6. I mean, they dominated Ohio and looked really good against Kentucky. That's fair. Duke down 1 spot. Arizona up 1 spot. Duke didn't look bad. It was just that because, Duke won their games by like 38 and 55. That's 93 points in 2 games. But again, Arizona had a ranked win. They had UCLA on the schedule. Duke's going to have some harder games coming up, though. And we have a flip-flop at number 1. UConn stays at 3. Houston back down to 2. Purdue up to 1. Purdue got that win over Alabama, and Houston had struggled with a worse Auburn team. I think that's a fair statement. Looking at first place votes, Purdue with 44, Houston with 12, and UConn and Arizona each with 2, and Duke with 1. So that will do it for this episode, the 25th episode of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. We will be back Wednesday, where we are going to... what are we all going to have on Wednesday? We'll talk about some college basketball games that I didn't have time to preview today. There shouldn't be too many big ones this week, but there probably will be now that I've said that. We will look at playoff rankings. We will look at Heisman rankings. We'll look at the coaching carousel. We got a ton to get into, so we will get into that on Wednesday. So for Michael Marks, this has been the Mark My Words College Sports Show. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.